Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Psych Files. Michael Britt here, episode 35, The Psychology of Extreme Sports. I want to explore particularly, really, the biological basis for why people are involved in extreme sports. Now, you might attribute some of this to cultural factors, the fact that we live in fast-paced times. We are definitely pushing things to the limit. What I'm going to do is explore sensation seeking. That's what psychologists call people who are interested in extreme sports. Now, first off, we really should look at one of the theories of motivation that's been around for a long time called Optimum arousal theory. Well, nothing very complicated here. The theory simply states that we all desire a level of arousal that is somewhere between being very relaxed, a low level of arousal, and being very excited. So that's a continuum. Now, we would find, if we were to measure people on the sensation-seeking scale, that there is a bell curve that results, right? And that most of us are right at the top. We desire a level of arousal that's right about in the middle between those two. But there are many of us who tend to like a more relaxed lifestyle, and others who are and to like a little bit more exciting lifestyle. So these over here are our high sensation seekers, and on this end, the low sensation seekers. So there you are. All right, so these people, these high SS, what is it about them? How do they get to be that way? The leading researcher in this area of sensation seeking is a man named Marvin Zuckerman, and he's been researching this for really quite a while. And he developed the sensation-seeking scale. And there are 4 factors involved in sensation-seeking. The first being thrill and adventure-seeking. So this is the one I think we typically associate with people who like extreme sports, right? They're into the thrill of it all. Now, on the sensation-seeking scale, there are questions such as, I wish I could be a mountain climber. I would like to try parachute jumping. Answer yes to those kinds of questions, and you're going to score highly on this particular aspect of sensation seeking. The second factor of sensation seeking is what Zuckerman calls experience seeking. Now, these are people who seek out unique and perhaps unfamiliar experiences, not necessarily dangerous ones, but most certainly novel ones. So I would like to explore strange cities or take a trip without knowing exactly where I'm going to end up, right? Are you the kind of person who would take a trip somewhere, explore a place you've never been with no map? Those are the kind of people who are seeking unique experiences. The third factor in sensation seeking is disinhibition, all right? We're simply people who tend not to be very inhibited. Right? People who are willing to take risks, who are quite likely to be the kind of people who would drink, who take drugs, who are not afraid of taking some risks. And finally, boredom susceptibility. Right? So high sensation seekers get bored easily. Now, just a couple of facts that have to do with sensation seekers. First off, men are usually have a stronger overall sensation-seeking tendency than women. Not surprising there. Another fast fact, people who have been divorced tend to score higher, on average, than married or single people on this sensation-seeking scale. And sensation-seeking behaviors seem to peak, when do you think? In the late teens, early 20s, and they decline with age. And high sensation seekers are more likely to drink, to smoke, to use illegal drugs, have unprotected sex, gamble, and drive recklessly. Nature or nurture? Well, you know what? There appears to be a nature component to this. In Zuckerman's research, they found that, again, using twins, 60% of their similarity on the sensation-seeking scale could be attributed to genetic factors. So let's delve into the brain. To get a really good understanding of the monoamine oxidase theory, we need to go into your brain. Specifically, of course, the space between the neurons, the synapse. Now, what you're looking at here are two neurons, and here's one here, the presynaptic neuron, and on the right, the postsynaptic neuron. A signal will be coming through this neuron across the synapse and through this neuron. So it's in this synapse where all the action takes place and where we can affect your moods, your energy levels, etc. You know, before we take a look at extreme sports, I thought to myself, this is a perfect opportunity actually to also look at something perhaps more common, and that is the way that medications work to affect our moods. And let's just take depression as an example. Now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw out these small yellow balls, which I'll refer to as molecules of serotonin. Now let's assume that this neuron on the left here has released serotonin out into the synapse to be communicated to the neuron on the right here. All right. So what's going to happen is it's going to cross the synapse. Now some of them will take their places over here on this neuron. All right. Some of them will go through and continue the signal. Now, however, some molecules of serotonin are left behind in the synapse. Now, what happens to them? Well, two things. Some of them can be reabsorbed into the presynaptic neuron. Okay, that's called reuptake. Others are destroyed, and they are destroyed by some enzymes, which are referred to as monoamine oxidase. Now I'm going to use this little symbol here from the Pac-Man days to indicate that that MAO is destroying that serotonin molecule. All right? People who experience depression have low levels of serotonin. There's really two things we can do to try to affect that. One of them would be to prevent the reabsorption of the serotonin molecule. And we do that with a class of drugs known as SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Right? And you would know them more in their common names, things like, for example, the most well-known probably Prozac, Lexapro, Paxil, drugs like that. Now what they do is, and I'm going to represent what they do with this little guy sitting in a chair. What they do is they take up the space where this serotonin molecule might have been reabsorbed. So it's sort of like you're playing musical chairs, and you know how that game is played, and someone comes over and sits in the chair and prevents you from sitting there. So if you can't be reabsorbed, then the only other thing you could do is either be destroyed or be absorbed, the postsynaptic neuron. And some medications prevent serotonin from being destroyed. So some medications affect the MAOs and keeping the serotonin levels high in the system. And that's how we affect depression levels. What does this all have to do with extreme sports? Well, the neurotransmitter, which has been implicated in extreme sports, is dopamine. And I am going to, so I'll get rid of the serotonin and bring out my dopamine here. All right. And I'm going to represent dopamine with small little red balls here. So let's assume now that this neuron on the left is passing dopamine molecules out into the synapse. And some of them, again, are going to cross over and be absorbed and continue that message. And what scientists have found is that people who have this high level of arousal, people who are sensation seekers, tend to have a high level of dopamine in the system. And that is what gets them that extra charge. By the way, people have some very unique and I think creative ways to express their need for sensation. Have you heard, for example, of the horizontal bungee?
All right, have fun.
Un, deux, trois.
Lots of links. Go check it out on www.thepsychfiles.com.